Alright, ladies, gentlemen, and otherwise identifying, I open with an apology for it has been a wondrous last couple of weeks in Crossout, and the hits keep on rolling, and they are culminating in this video today. So this is going to touch upon quite a few different topics, which is to say basically all the regular problems with my videos about being long-winded and meandering and too in-depth are going to be especially so with the video today. So to give some background for the Dronapocalypse update, a couple of weeks ago the hits started coming, and oh boy, have they not stopped coming. So we had our good friend, the Polar Lights Battle Pass. I'm actually not sure how long ago this was. The Polar Lights, I think it was probably about a month ago now. We're just going to use Bailey's post history on Reddit to highlight all of these. Remember, I can actually find the Polar Lights. It's Operation Radiance. 2 months ago. Polar Lights started 2 months ago. Alright, so let's get that on screen. Bloom. Excellent. So Polar Lights started 2 months ago. Excellent. An update for a bunch of stuff, which I don't think I did a video on actually, but new things, huzzah, new co-driver, huzzah. Not a whole lot of balance changes. So, actually a lot of balance changes. Maybe I didn't go over this. I feel like I must have. Man, we are getting meta now. Weeks, months. Supercharge was 5 months ago. Okay, so I don't think I did a video on Polar Lights other than that one, I guess, but that was a month ago. And multiple questions. I'm going to assume that they're using a different counting system, and I actually did have a Polar Lights happy face one. I don't recall talking about everything in depth. I generally do record values, so these new values should have definitely been changed. Which I seem to recall doing. So I have to double check those later. In any case, so basically, had Polar Lights main battle pass, had a bunch of new machine guns and underwater, aquatic, crab, polar, whatever words you want to use to describe to them, new things, which is always cool. So like with most other battle passes, it had its challenges, both daily, weekly, and then also additional weekly. And it was actually a very long season compared to other ones. So looking at the overview, for Polar Lights, very longest so far. And that was pretty much working kind of business as usual. They had implemented the lighters, a prestige system, which is different than beforehand. So prior battle passes, for the ones who actually had rewards for prestiges, basically gave coins, and then with the advent of the Mr. Twister small battle pass, they had a lighter system. So effectively you would have X amount of challenges equaling X amount of EXP equaling X amount of levels, and each level would give you X amount of lighters. With those lighters you could then buy basically a reward of your choice rather than being given a explicit generic value item such as money or a explicit item for leveling up something. They gave you lighters, and then you could exchange lighters at a certain rate for a certain amount of rewards. So that worked, and then they implemented it with Polar Lights as well, and then we proceeded to have people like myself do, I could probably just search this, approximate Battle Pass. Yeah, lovely. So we did some math on how the lighters would end up looking like, and then what the shop would end up looking like for how many items you could get. Pretty straightforward. And then the shit show started. So we had Operation Radiance, which was a Ravager's event. This was a month ago. And like other recent battle passes, or rather mini events during battle passes, it is a paid event, which is to say that there was a free track and there was a paid track. And it also utilized a prestige system, but it was slightly different from lighters, which I assume had to do with the fact that they were already using the lighters resource for something else and didn't want to have risk of like double dipping on the resource or overlapping or making things more complex than it needed to be. So they ended up going with a new-ish kind of prestiging system where instead of having lighters that you'd exchange for items, you'd get items as a prestige, and then you could use those items to make other items. So that kind of worked. Game mode had its ups and downs as per usual, etc. The kind of problemski with this, which doesn't seem to actually be posted here, funny enough. Can tell I'm disorganized. Butte. Okay, so this is an example. This isn't actually showing what the thing is, but in any case, these items are all Battle Pass exclusive historically. So the Argument, the Miller, the Iris, all of the items actually given here were Battle Pass exclusive, which is to say that they were generally horribly overpriced as a result of their limited scarcity, immense scarcity, their limited supply. So they were expensive because you could only craft them during a prior Battle Pass, and then once that was gone, you couldn't craft it anymore. So with this, their idea was, what we will do is we will let you craft some legendary items, but we will require you to give us Battle Pass exclusive items. So that's what they did. They would have you give free rewards, which were event cars for the event, resource packs, engineer badges, etc. And then if you paid, then you'd get these items, and then you could use these items, or even, if you didn't use those items, if you bought others or if you had duplicates from beforehand, whatever. Say work pieces for the Argument or the Miller still, then you'd be able to turn some of them in for other things. So I don't quite recall all of them off the top of my head. I believe it was, for instance, 3 Iris to turn into 1 Miller, and then you needed 3 Millers for 1 Omamori, maybe? Something like that. In any case, pretty lucrative. So that got a bit of backlash for being Battle Pass exclusive items being re-put in to try and adjust the prices of them somewhat. Like with other ones, there were complaints on the value. So this is another thing I've done before. Another topic I've touched slightly on in other videos, but basically my attempts to sort of normalize the value of items that are in a battle pass and then compare the actual overall value of items. So again, the smaller battle passes would have the full price of regular battle passes, $10 US, $15 Canadian, but they would be for a shorter period of time, and they generally had less value, and this was pretty consistent. Notably, the Arena Battle Pass was free, and the Steel Championship had a paid option, but these two were primarily more grind intensive than money intensive in any case. So the Arena literally didn't even have a paid tier, it was just free, and then if you did manage to get into the top ranking, which hilariously it looks like I either deleted the data or forgot to put it in here. But if you did rank in the top, whatever it was, 100 or 150 or whatever, you got a legendary item as well. So that was a pretty sizable chunk to the value of that free battle pass. In any case, the other ones, there's arguably some merit for them because they also included packs in the Steel Championship and Mr. Twister battle passes. But in short, a lot of the community was not a fan of having to pay for a reward track in an event where the event was free and the rewards were overall less than the value of a traditional battle pass season. There's some nuance there, but I'm not going to go over that in depth in the video here. But pretty straightforward overall, I think. And then on top of this, what ended up happening, I don't even know where I'd go to find it in the history, but basically it was kind of rocky to begin with. They fucked up the challenges, so instead of resetting every 24 hours, so 20 hours after the launch of the event and then 1 day afterwards, and it ended up resetting every 20 hours. So people were getting challenges and more EXP ahead of time, so what they ended up doing is they had a small update to correct that. So it paused / delayed challenges for people who had already had them, as well as making some updates to the Radiance event. So then everything was on track. But then we had some problems that we found out like immediately afterwards, which is that people ran out of challenges and weren't getting any more. So they had their thing of like, hey, so we did the backlog and we fixed that. You'll get more challenges in the future. Sorry. Then between the time of these two posts, there's some issues where people were running out of challenges and only ended up getting 2 prestiges, so 2 irises out of the battle pass, which wasn't enough to craft like half of the items from that list earlier, including the Omamora, which was like one of the big ones. That thing was almost as expensive as a relic on Xbox, at least. So then what they ended up saying is, whoopsie, so to be clear, we actually had some days at the end of the event for not having challenges refresh, and we didn't communicate that. So our B will be more transparent about it. So we're going to give you 3 days of premium. And then everybody and their mom got upset, including me, who wrote an essay, as I tend to do, because you know, had a battle pass, had prestiges, did the math, and then we didn't get corrected until near the end. And that's like, oh hey, so actually, you know, those plans for building stuff with this prestige stuff, yeah, you can't actually do that, so sucks to suck. So that was a real upsetting one overall. I mean, the 0 upvotes to 136 comments, or sorry, the 0 net upvotes, I think it's like a 1/4, yeah, upvoted. Yeah, kind of shows, I think, the community's opinion on it. Not a big fan. So then people are like, hey, wait a minute. If you're going to axe challenges for us, does that mean that it applies to Polar Lights too? I don't know where they said it in this one. But in any case, they said it in the Polar Lights too. So then people, rightfully, I think, we're like, hey, what the heck? So like I said, people were kind of upsetty, myself included. So because we didn't know the challenges were going to be, you know, correct, we're like, okay, so what about Polar Lights? And then a lot of type tapping, and then somebody else asked about Polar Lights at some point, and so followed up on that, and I did some more math, as I am wont to do, with the updated calculations as a result of them actually saying, hey, so yes, we are also cutting challenges short in the main battle pass. And that was not a good thing, because it completely changed the end result from being able to get multiple legendary items fused from the lighters to just 1. So yeah, we went from around 1,400 lighters, where you could get 2 legendaries for 1,300, to significantly less, 1,200, so you couldn't even get 2 legendaries even if you had perfect attendance. So people were, yeah, very upsetty about that again. So then they went and were like, talking about the changes, and everybody was still pretty upsetty talking about the balance stuff. And then they released in Dronapocalypse, which is kind of what this video is about, but it was 4 days ago because there's just so much stuff to unwrap. They ended up changing it so that Polar Lights would then have the remaining season. So huzzah, we've been vindicated, and then this updated one is no longer updated and we're back to the original math. Yay for us. So they actually listening, even though Faley got like fucking bodied on every post and comment they made in a 2-week period because everybody was upset with them. So yeah, then in Dronapocalypse, and this is something that was part of the update preview, they have Dronapocalypse, okay, makes sense. Have a blueprint in it, okay, sure, they've been doing it historically, makes sense. So we got another one. But then they don't include a pack with this one. So I haven't even done the math on it yet. But it's going to probably be significantly worse than the other ones, because at least with Polar Lights, at least with Mr. Twister Steel Championship, when you bought it, you got a car, you got a bunch of decor, you got pretty good value, even just compared to packs. It was better than spending the money on a vehicle pack. And for newbies, you got vehicle, you got structural parts, you got prestige parts, you got engineer badge parts. A big kickstart on top of having some modules and, you know, other stuff you get from a normal vehicle pack. And then of course the reward track, which would include things like CKs or, you know, like new decor and stuff, whatever. So with this one, they don't even do that. They literally just, if it's not a pack, it's just a, hey, you pay to access the upgraded version. And then they made the selling point of this pack an item, a new item that is only around for the duration of this update. At least for now. They say in the future that it'll change, so at the moment it can only be produced during the event. So I mean, obviously it sounds like they'll change it in the future, but in any case, it's currently only available in the event. And wouldn't you know it, the way to make it is you have to buy pack exclusive items and throw them into the grinder. So I'm still here, thank you. Oh, and it gets angry with it being timed out on the controller. My goodness. So needy. Okay, so then they have the pack, which you can buy. You can purchase the full version, but it's not actually a pack anymore. It's just straight up you have permission to cry, basically. Oops, didn't mean to actually click on it. So yeah, part for each new level and access to all additional rewards. Interestingly, they don't even specify you get a plus a level in there like you do with the battle passes generally. So I don't even know if you do or don't with that. I'm assuming you do, but maybe not. So as for the new items, so it's exact same plan as the last time, which, you know, people weren't a fan of. You get new items, or not new items, you get repeat items from the past, which were Battle Pass exclusive. You get a crafting bench, and then you can use those prior Battle Pass exclusive items to craft other Battle Pass exclusive items, like the Avalanche, the Parser, the Outway, Trombone. Excellent. But then the new motherfucker, you gotta use Battle Pass, or sorry, not even Battle Pass, pack exclusive items. So basically all of these took off to the fucking moon in price. Quadrupled in price for that. Cap cans doubled in price. Flutes fucking went through the ceiling and then some. Quintupled in price, and now they're back down to like double the price. But basically it's like, hey, you want this new shiny item? Well, you better fork over items that can only be bought for real money and not earned in game in any way, shape, or form other than buying them off of other people who spent real money on them for this new item. So people are rightfully very upset about this. Yeah, this is not good, especially because the cap cans have just been like hugely overpriced to begin with. Like just the entire time I've been playing for the last like 3 years, cap cans have always been closer to the price of a legendary than an epic, and yeah, it still gets better. So that was Dronapocalypse, and there was a bunch of complaining about that, because I mean, of course there was, because that's completely fair. People were not a fan of that either, more so than the other stuff, it would seem, but still, yeah. Peeps angry with the Athena. You're slapping a paywall on a paywall. Like, what the fuck, guys? It's not even a paywall on a paywall. It's a paywall on of buying the pass on the paywall of needing 3 different paywalled items. And then of course, because it's a 6 energy item, you need 2 of them. But don't worry guys, you can fuse them, so you could get 4. So you could just get 16 Battle Pass exclusive. Oh my goodness. So a little silly, and then it just got better, because of course it did. So now, as of today, 2 hours ago, I don't even know what they're doing. It's like they're honestly speedrunning how to piss off their entire community as much as possible. They release a new pack, and it is a pretty cool new pack, and it does have some pretty cool stuff in it, but the stuff is primarily more Battle Pass exclusives, at least priorly. So the Bootstrap, people have work pieces for. The Hermits, people could craft if they're around for amusement park, but the Therms, it was whoever had whatever ability to craft it then, and whatever work pieces. Now those are pretty much all gone out of the economy, and those were also used in Polar Lights to craft the new weapons, so they also exploded in value. But now, hey, they're going back down because they're from here. And then these also had a huge supply crank as well, because you need engraved casings to craft them, and then they ended up restricting the ability to earn casings, so now the only ones available are the ones that are already on the market, and luckily that one has seemed to be at least a little bit more manipulation, or maybe they're just slowly pouring them in via trades with Arbiter Market Bot or something. I don't know, that hasn't seemed to be too much of a problem, but all these Battle Pass exclusives like toppled on top of each other is kind of ludicrous. So then the pack also has decor. Oh, thank you, Xbox. Very cool. That didn't exist outside of events, or I don't even know where this came from. I've never seen a donut before. So exclusive have to rank up factions for, prestige factions for, and or spend engineer badges on the badge exchange. So obviously the stream is kind of dying, but that's fine. And that's all cool and dandy. But the problem is that on top of the Battle Pass exclusives on Battle Pass exclusives on top of Battle Pass exclusives, this is a temporary pack. So it's not even sticking around for like the total length of anything. Drone Day lasts longer than this. Canadian dollars, because you can't buy the $50 Canadian pack to get there. You have to buy 2 of the smaller packs or buy one of the bigger ones. Likewise, this one introduces something that's been a decor item as much as or more expensive than a regular legendary part, and then a new one of the exact same, which has been ridiculously popular for obvious reasons, and is like $90. Yeah, so this is it's just been a really great last few weeks for Targum. They're not making a lot of friends out of the community, so I don't know what's going on or what they're trying to do or if they're reaching their goal at all, but I do have my doubts. Oh, internet, why you must suck so. So that's fun. So that's kind of the like background of everything that's been going on. So I do actually want to explicitly talk about the changes in Dronapocalypse as well, because I normally just talk about these things and there's a bunch of changes with it, and there's been no shortage of threads of people misunderstanding or completely missing the data in here. So I'm just going to be going through this from top to bottom as like clear as I possibly can be, so that while I don't think anybody's going to necessarily directly refer to this video or watch it or be enlightened, I can at the very least just post timestamps to answer all of these questions in the future instead of having to continually write it up or copy paste the patch notes. Great. So luckily, the Dronapocalypse aspect is pretty straightforward. You play as a drone. There's 2 Leviathans, one for your team, one for theirs. You blow them up. Excellent. So pretty much the exact same as prior years. So interestingly to note, we now have 3 different sets of challenges going on, which is kind of whack. Basically, Drone Day has a special event challenge that pops up here every day at reset time, and you win 2 matches in Dronapocalypse. You get a container, which I currently don't have any of to show here because I opened it. You can get stuff including the new Cyber Duck decor or a drone hologram or a paint. Yeah, pretty straightforward, easy. Polar lights, they already talked about it, easy. This stash, just a whack. Worth noting that you do get daily challenges, and there is a backlog for the challenges. So unlike the Drone Apocalypse one, which is as per standard for getting a cosmetic crate from an event where it resets daily, if you didn't get it done in time, you don't get that crate. This works like regular weekly challenges for the regular battle passes, so these do not reset, these do stack up. Likewise, of course, Polar Lights, as per usual, has daily challenges which do not stack and do expire, and then the main and additional challenges, so the weekly challenges which don't expire and do stack up. So bunch of different things going on, that's fun. The Athena I talked about. Weekly challenges, okay, so this is one of the ones people have mucked up before. So all they're saying, basically, is beforehand we had, I think I actually did the math breakdown of this at some point. Actually, I think I probably saved it recently, because it was something that I was discussing again with somebody. And then of course I cry because there's so much different content saved and none of it's sorted. Excellent, great. So this is referring to prior challenges. So beforehand there was 10 hard raids for electronics, which gave you 500 badges, 10 hard raids for copper, which gave you 500 badges, 6 easy missions, easy raids, which gave you 100 badges, and then this is additional ones. So the normal raids, so you have 10 plastic for 150 badges, as well as 10 copper for 100 badges, and then your PvP. What they've done is they've changed the normal and hard raids to be exactly like the easy raid, where it doesn't actually matter which resource you choose to go after in it. There's now the 2 tiers. There is the easy tier as before. Whoops, bad hover. So do an easy raid, win 6 battles. That is unchanged, and it's also because both of them are copper, so the reward type would be the same, so it's the same challenge anyway. Now, instead of having a hard copper and hard electronics and a normal plastic and a normal copper, they have a normal and a hard. So they say that the rewards and tiering for it is the same, so that means that it should be 8 battles to begin with, and then 12 battles for the second stage, and then it should give 600 changed. You just split it. And they actually did this too with the daily challenges, so instead of having to win raids, you just deal damage in a game mode. Stuff like that. So they're sort of simplifying it, making it easier, I think, for newbies primarily. No. Rebalancing stuff, which I'll talk about after. So other stuff that people may have missed, misinterpreted, or just not read at all. So you cannot like your own blueprints easy enough. They changed the layout of this a little bit. So you can hover over it and it tells you what it includes at a high level. I think it's basically all that one was saying. That one doesn't seem to be too risky of being misinterpreted. Nothing that we'd see there since that hasn't happened. Spectate through player eyes, which I haven't had happen since I literally haven't played and been dead yet since the update, but seems fairly straightforward. Your cursor will now follow around whoever you're spectating rather than being fixed wherever you're looking, which can be useful for actually just, you know, vibing and spectating people easy. This one is not obvious. They are saying that there's a so it was like that, and it was saying, hey, you deal damage. How much damage? I don't know. But it was also like that for the Helios, so they fixed it. Great. So that, pretty straightforward. They added a number on your profile for your clan battles. So if you're like me, 0. Improve the appearance of the window with special requirements for the blueprint. So this is referring to going into things like brawls, which have restrictions. Or maybe not. This one I didn't actually check out. But maybe it's just because they don't have the actual relevant brawl here. I'm wondering if maybe it's because the artillery pre-supplies vehicles, just like Dronapocalypse, and therefore it doesn't have any information to show as per the update, just because there is no information to show, just because there's no build restrictions on it, because it's a build provided game mode rather than one that requires you to have specific stuff. I don't know the answer to that. Great. New setting, additional camera boost. This is not what it sounds like it is. Basically, it just means that if you are spinning, it helps you spin faster. So this is for basically if you have to snap 180 really quickly on the build. It's just a toggle. It's not like the additional camera boost lets you zoom out further, which would have been nice, but not the case. Cool, new sound stuff. Pretty easy. Note that the Frankenstein CK is the Firestarter themed one for the Humpback cabin, which came from, I think, the Big Chase. Maybe not. Came from one of the Battle Passes in any case. They got rid of full screen, which doesn't affect me. Haha. They changed the front end, which is because beforehand it didn't have these pips, it was just on the side and back, which made it a little bit more harder to use other than like as your most exterior armor part. So now you can actually slap it on like the top of your build and slap stuff like decor on top of that. Easy. They changed the models of the gun